In part 6, you'll learn about the energy retrofits we did on our home.
The first shelter that we started thinking about was the outdoor kitchen. The outdoor kitchen provided us with a space to pot up seedlings, to host parties, and to basically do outdoor activities more often. The average North American spends somewhere between 70 and 90% of their life inside. And this is a really depressing fact. I mean, we work inside, we drive inside of a climate-controlled car, and we sleep inside, and we do most of our activities inside. So one of the amazing elements that I think every household should have in North America is a space where they can congregate outside, they can cook outside, and they can do activities outside. So this shelter provides us with the ability to do courses and to host parties and to cook. It's wonderful. It gets us outside for most of the summertime. When we looked at our house, we realized that our house was really inefficient. Not only did we see that by actually peering into the walls and seeing how the house was built, but every winter in this house was absolutely miserable. Most people don't realize this, but the pink fiberglass insulation that we're all accustomed to using has predetermined R values. So a 2x4 wall is rated at about R8. Now that R8 represents, is kind of a measure to determine how fast energy moves from one surface to another. So the higher the number gets, the slower that energy moves. What people don't realize though is that the effectiveness of this pink insulation actually drops dramatically when you get below about -20. And in addition to that, it's not very good at stopping air leakage. So when we looked at all of the reasons that our house was actually feeling very uncomfortable and our energy bills were high, we decided to actually rip the whole outside of the house off and then fill all the wall cavities with a new type of insulation and then reclad the house. So when we uncovered the house, what we discovered was the house is actually clad in this buffalo board, which was a really crummy product that was only available for about 6 months in the 1970s. And so we were really happy to actually get rid of that. And then we blew in a low VOC soy-based foam into the walls, which has an R value of 7. Now, if I was to go and build a new house, I'd probably use natural building materials like straw or light clay chip, which you can find out more about on Dirtcraft's website, dirtcraft.ca. But because our house was oriented in the wrong direction, in other words, the long axis was north-south and the short axis was east-west, the exact opposite direction that it should be in a climate like ours to harvest solar energy, we had to try and get as much insulation into the walls as we possibly could to get our energy bill as low as possible. What we've found now that we've re-insulated our home is that we've cut our energy bill down by somewhere between 1/7 and 1/10. We've eliminated all of the air leakage within the house, and so now we don't have drafts anymore. And one of the unintended consequences of doing this is that we've ended up reducing the ambient noise that was getting into the house. So we don't hear the helicopters flying overhead and we don't hear the traffic outside, which means sleeping in the house is far more pleasant now. We also insulated the basement. We found that the basement floor was very cold, so we put a layer of foam over top of the basement floor. And we insulated the attic as well. The Passive House Standard actually recommends that you get about in between an R80 and R100 rating in the attic. So we actually blew 3 feet of cellulose into the attic itself, and in order to ensure that the drywall didn't come off of the ceiling, we actually had to put plywood over top of the trusses to support all of the cellulose. So I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking R80, R100, this guy's absolutely nuts. But it turns out that the cost to put 3 feet of cellulose up into your attic is not that much more than putting 1 foot up into your attic. And the incremental improvement in energy efficiency is justifiable because the cost is so small. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going to R80 or R100 in your walls. This is just a really easy, low-lying fruit that you can capture. We blew all the cellulose foam in ourselves, and that's why we had to drink a ton of beer while we were doing it.